Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Aster Sophia Kairos weekly forecast. My name is Krista of Practical Astros, and I'm here with Mandy Ray of Ecstatic Astrology. Hi, Mandy.
Hello, how are you?
Pretty good, pretty good. We're still in this Mercury Mars mess as we record, but we are going to talk about the first week of November, which has kind of quite a lot going on. It sets the stage for the whole month of November. And we'll be going through each week for the month, but we're starting with this one right here. We do Wednesday to Wednesday week. So if our weeks look a little wonky, it's because we go from Mercury day to Mercury day. So these are the transits that we're going to talk about.
Sure, we've got the full moon in Taurus, which to me feels extremely, I want to say comfy. And I only say that because Taurus is a sign about your comfort and about what you love and your values. And right now we have Jupiter in Cancer. So Jupiter in Cancer is ruled by the moon. So the moon in Taurus feels really good at this full moon. And then we have Venus, which is the ruler of Taurus, and its domicile in Libra. And it feels like a time when we might wanna just do some self-care, and especially on the heels of just before this, Mars opposes Uranus. So, that might be a little bit of a kind of a nerve-wracking moment. A lot of times Mars opposite Uranus has that connotation. So, to have the full moon in Taurus is like, okay, sit down with your hot cup of coffee in the morning and just kind of center yourself. At least that's what I'm gathering from it. I think with the
Yeah.
nodes being in Pisces and Virgo too, it's going to interact with those in a really flowing way. It's going to trine the south node and sextile the north node. So I'm looking forward to that full moon. I think it's going
Hmm.
to be really nice.
Yeah. Let me see if I can't pull up the chart like this. And then I'm going to pull up the full moon. So we have full moon here November 5th. Remember the 5th of November. We've got a 13-degree, 22-minute Scorpio sun and a 13-degree, 22-minute Taurus moon. So the moon at its full stage is fully reflecting the sun's light. And, Scorpio season, there's not a lot, except for when planets go into Scorpio, they square Pluto. But beyond that, like they're getting flows from Saturn and Pisces, they're getting flows from Jupiter, Cancer. For the most part, they're not kind of hitting any hiccups. And so I think that this full moon will kind of reflect back on that of all the things that are happening, all the renewal that happens in Scorpio, having Mars just gone through it, being at home. Venus is about to approach it. I do like that Venus is in domicile, like you mentioned, for this new moon or for this full moon to kind of post it, even though it's out of sight. There's that lichen girding quality of Venus is at home, even if she can't have sight on the moon through traditional aspect. She's fine. The moon is fine.
Yeah. And the moon's exalted in Taurus. So
Hmm.
it just feels so good. And like they're both like working well, even though, like you said, they're out of sight. That's the funniest part about Taurus and Libra to me is that
Mm,
when you have Venus and the moon both in those areas, it's like they do connect at that one point, you know?
yeah. Yeah. It's like Scorpio and Aries. Like they're both ruled by Mars, but they can't really see each other by aspect, but like they're good, you know?
Exactly.
So while this is happening, we do have that trine still happening from Jupiter and Saturn. Jupiter is slowing down. Jupiter is going to go retrograde at the end of this week. So I want to go and maybe I can do that. Let's just jump around and
Sure.
confuse people. This Jupiter going retrograde at the end of the week, I think is going I think it's going to be felt this whole time. Jupiter has been in Cancer since June, and this is the first retrograde. It's the only retrograde that we're going to have during this cycle, but it lasts for a fairly long time. Jupiter is one of those outer planets, that has like a full year cycle. The retrogrades are a little bit longer. And I don't know, there's something about that degree that Jupiter's going to be at this degree during that full moon, and it's connecting to the Scorpio house. It's not making a really strong aspect to the luminaries, but close enough where I feel like the retrograde will already beginning to be felt during that full moon. And even though this is happening at the end of our week, I wanted to kind of also start here. Maybe that's like a retrograde hint, is like looking backwards or like kind of looking at things out of order to put the pieces backwards. So Let's look at this week backwards maybe. Let's start at the very end. What are your thoughts just on Jupiter retrograde, in Cancer?
It's gonna be very loud, I
Yeah.
think, especially with it going direct with the moon in Leo. It's
Mhm.
gonna be loud and out front, and people are probably gonna make a big deal out of things around that day. That's kind of what I feel like. I think Jupiter retrograde, as much as retrogrades have the connotation of maybe, especially with Mercury, like things getting messed up or whatever. I think with it in Cancer is more like, why don't we reassess how we feel right now? Or almost like get in touch with maybe ways we used to feel that we have been separated from somehow. It just feels like a return to what what comforts me. With it moving forward, you're exploring new territory, and you're exploring new ways of feeling, and maybe dealing with new outer world things that are making you feel certain ways. So this almost feels like a return to, especially with the moon in Leo, like, what makes you feel joy? What makes you
Mm,
feel comfort? And
mhm.
maybe take a break and take a breath and feel that.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and also, like, as we're recording it, it's October 21st, and we are separating from Mercury, Mars in Scorpio. And during this station of Jupiter's retrograde, Mercury and Mars will have just come together. And so, in a Jupiter sign, and even though, like, Jupiter or Cancer and Sagittarius don't see each other by aspect, they do have that kind of that knowing of we're both ruled by Jupiter in some degrees. It's like all these like little undercurrents, I think is what I'm getting is like these undercurrents of connection that we have to then start to reconcile and make sense of. Like you said, like what does bring me joy? Like I think maybe I used to like that or that used to make me happy, but does it really make me happy anymore? It's a little melancholic, but it's like good melancholy where you are forced to be reflective so that you can have like a real true or honest sense of what that Jupiterian nature of Jupiter and Cancer, and then also just the mindful curiosity of Mercury and Sag and Mars and Sag after they've come together. If they feel simultaneous. It's when do they come together exactly? It's going to be in the next week because Mercury is retrograding, so we're not going to
Yes.
even get to that next week. So it is like this building up of that energy.
Plus the next day, yeah,
Yeah.
the 12th. And,
Okay.
they come together. They came together first in Scorpio, and Mars did, but then twice in Sag, I believe. Maybe I'm wrong. No, the next time they come together is because of the retrograde. It's gonna be in Capricorn,
Oh, and that's when there's all that stuff in Capricorn.
all that stuff in Capricorn.
Is that
So it's
January
funny how
6th
it's
or
yep,
7th, something like that? Yeah.
January 18th when Mercury does it. But yeah, the Venus, Mars, all of it. We're gonna
Mhm.
have like a Venus and a Mars Cazimi sandwich right
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
And then the Mercury Cazimi right after that. So there's gonna
Mhm.
be a lot of stuff in Capricorn, but I love the interplay of Mercury and Mars kind of annoyed you in
Mm.
Scorpio and just
Mhm.
kind of like just got to you. But during the retrograde, as Jupiter stations, Mercury and Mars come together in Sag. And then it's like
Yeah,
rethink it through this lens. And
yeah,
then we'll kind of put a bookend on it in Capricorn.
yeah.
So that's kind of nice.
So, Mercury, it's the 2 days before. So as we're moving backwards, Mercury will have stationed retrograde in Sag at 6 degrees, with Mars there at 3, and, Jupiter is at that 25th degree. So Jupiter really is very slow. It's connected to that retrograde, slow Saturn and Pisces. So there is something about this force of, we speak of trines as flowing, but so much of it is just the speed and acceleration, especially with water. If you've ever been around like those sneaker waves that happen on the coast, where it's like that water, it seems very, it seems calm, but then all of a sudden you realize the force of the entire ocean is pushing all of this water, and that water can move so quickly. So
Mhm.
while there's
The river.
these yeah, yeah. While there's this fiery activity happening in Sagittarius, that Saturn Jupiter connection, that tight trine, because that's slowing down in Jupiter as it's connected to that by degree by that Saturn. I just feel like the currency of water, the current of water, the flow of water, that acceleration is going to be quite quick. And it will feel how we kind of describe fire as like really fast and forceful, but it's going to be fueled by water, which can like that that current can just get into a lot more things. It can get into a lot more areas of life. I just think it's going to be quick. Even with the Mercury retrograde, I just think that the entire first week of November is going to feel really fast, but it's not just because of the fire, I guess is my point. It is because of that watery flow. The sun is moving into a trine with those as well. And yeah. I'm just it's hard moving backwards, like thinking about it, but I feel like I'm already kind of under the waves, like trying to decipher what the week's gonna be.
I like that you said the sneaker waves because even looking at the week backwards feels like one of those.
Yeah. Well, I don't really re-listen to the recordings that we do for the forecast. And it's making me think that, I mean, I could, and just to see like, what is it about what we brought up? How can that be reflected back on my own life? And I think all these planets that are about to be retrograde is a good time to reflect, revise, do things in a new way, just so that you can kind of think about things more mindfully instead of just chugging along because you've been doing it that way. The day before this happens, though, we have Uranus that has been in Gemini since the summer, basically. It turned retrograde on the 6th. So on November 8th, it's going to be retrograding backwards back into Taurus for the final time this round. So we're going to have Uranus for a little while in Taurus, and then it's going to go back into Gemini. Do you know what that date is? April? Yeah, April 25th. So,
And it's so funny that before it retrogrades back into Taurus, there's the full moon in Taurus. It's almost like, hey, pay
mm,
attention to this area
mm-hmm,
because Uranus is going to go back in and shake it up
yep,
for a second.
yeah,
I
and
welcome it. It's been so weird in Gemini.
yeah, yeah. I mean, Uranus it's especially in this last round. It's like, what did you disrupt before with Uranus and Taurus that maybe hasn't finished, changing? This is kind of the last chance. It's like last call for all the drinks. Like, what are you gonna do to like make this to liberate yourself in the ways that you can with Uranus and that in the Taurus house. So, it can be difficult, especially for fixed risings, because this hits the angle, that hits the stable parts of your chart. But Uranus it's not malefic. It's not there to just piss you off. It's there to really kind of be that impetus for change.
Yeah, we've had Neptune in Aries and Uranus in Gemini, and they've sextiled from that piece. And now we've got Neptune back in Pisces with the sextile to Uranus.
Mhm.
And I think that's going to be quite nice as a way to, like you said, it's almost like, when you decorate for Halloween with those fake spider webs.
Yeah.
And when you try to take it off and it's like, "Oh, I didn't get everything," and you have to kinda remove the spider
Mhm.
web still, and it feels like real spider webs, and it's so creepy. That's
Yeah.
what this feels like, what part of the the shackles has not been released yet, you know? That's kind
Mhm.
of what it feels like.
Yeah, yeah. There's some phantom shackles some ghostly shackles that you gotta get rid of. So the day before this is like there's an exercise where you count backwards and forwards from 0 to 100. So it's like 0, 100, 199, 298, 397, 496, 595, and you kinda go back until you get to, 50/50, and then you go back. So it's almost like it's defragmenting your brain, and working through an astrology week backwards is like defragmenting my brain.
That's so
Okay,
cool, though.
the day before Venus having moved into Scorpio. So Venus moves into Scorpio on the 6th. And so we can just look at this chart for both. As soon as Venus moves out of her domicile of Libra into Scorpio, which is her exile, she squares Pluto. We get these fairly often because Venus moves fairly quickly, and we haven't had a Venus retrograde since the spring. So every time Venus goes into a fixed sign, it either opposes Pluto or squares it. Anything squaring Pluto is like a chance to kind of dig a little bit, even if it's like digging into the sensitive parts of the psyche. Venus in Scorpio like doesn't mess around. So I feel like Venus in Scorpio is equipped, even though she's not equipped with her own expected behavior. That's kind of the liberating piece of a planet that is not at home. It's like, well, these are the tools that I have. So, and Scorpio likes to dig. Scorpio likes to go deep. Scorpio likes to reveal, and that's what Pluto's there for. So I like this. This is 2 days after the moon is full. It's disseminating. So what is it about that disseminating moon and the square from Pluto Venus? Yeah, I to me this is my favorite transit of the week.
Really?
Mhm.
Some empowering stuff right there. I don't know. As a I have a 0 degree Pluto in Scorpio, so
Mm.
maybe it should be my favorite because Venus will be there giving me a little bit of balance in that area, a little bit of it's kind of take your power back and like we were talking about with Uranus retrograding back into Taurus, it's like what part of this have you not quite dealt with?
Yeah, I mean, it's Mars is Decan and Mars is bound. The tarot card is associated with this is the 5 of Cups, which shows that cloaked figure with his head down, and there's, like, a few cups tipped over, and there's, like, a river in front of him, and there's landscape beyond him, but his head is down, but there's a couple of cups that are still upright, and there's, like, the sense of pouring one out for the homies, like, honoring those that have gone before, honoring that the things that you have loved, that you have to mourn and say goodbye to. The Venus in this is kind of that honoring of what honoring the things that bring us grief, but also like for you having 0 degree Pluto Scorpio, is this like this really deep glow up? Like you should go to the mall and get like a makeover, you know,
I love it. I love it. I think
get like a
so.
photo shoot, just become a different character just for the day. It's
Yeah.
like you get to just I don't know, there's like this, taboo honoring of scorpionic Venusian themes that comes from Venus and Scorpio, but squaring that Pluto, it's like, what's deep inside Mandy Ray that just wants to be expressed?
Yeah, and all these 83, 84 babies that have it because,
Mm,
you know and this is the closing square too. So
yeah,
the conjunction was December 7th, 2024, and then the first square was June 9th, 2025. And then the opposition was August 27th. So if you take those dates and then plug it in with what's going on here, this is the closing of whatever themes
mm.
pop up around those dates before the next conjunction, which will be January 19th.
That around a lunation? What's going on January
Yep.
19th?
Yep. There's a new moon like the day before.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that brings
Yes.
us full week from a backwards week. We can kind of go through it really quickly again. Week 1, full moon in Taurus, that's where we're starting, and then the next day after the full moon, Venus will go into Scorpio, where then she'll immediately square Pluto, but then Venus goes into that whole sign house of Scorpio, so she's trining the other benefic who is slowing down, to go retrograde, and she's joining the moon. She's trining Neptune and Saturn. So Venus may not be at home in Scorpio, but there is some connection. She's like plugging into these. Venus exalts over here in Pisces. So she can see that Pisces house. I kind of like that. And then, after the square, Uranus is going to retrograde in Venus's house up there in Taurus. It'll oppose where Venus is. But that's one of the houses she rules. So again, like that liberation and excavation of Venusian things seems like it's kind of surfaced just through this conversation of squaring Pluto, going into Scorpio, opposing Uranus. And then we have Mercury retrograde in Sag on the 9th and Jupiter retrograde in Cancer on the 11th. So lots of like kind of pulling the levers to like slow down to do some check-ins for this first week.
Yeah. Even starting with the full moon, which is just so very like ground yourself, take care of yourself
Mhm.
because the rest of November is just as full.
Here's the
And
image.
we're about to record our full month for what we do together, which will be on YouTube. So
Yeah, we'll go through all these again, and for the rest of the month, there's a lot going on in November. You thought October and September and August and all the months preceding that were wild, but it keeps going. So yeah, we'll just wrap it up for here. And I'm sorry that my my tech skills are wonky today, but whatever. It's
I think it's great.
yeah. It's me. I'm Krista at Practical Astros,
Mandy of Ecstatic Astrology.
and one or both of us or more of us will be back next week, and we'll go through the middle of November, which is probably the quietest of all of them, but quiet relatively speaking.
Exactly. Maybe we should be quiet for a minute.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, y'all.
Thanks.